got it. All I need to do to be a popular YouTuber is have green hair. Because apparently, punk is not dead. Hello and welcome. It is 9 o'clock. It is the 16th day of January 2021. We are still here. I am your grumpy guide to all things gaming, the OGGM, and it's time for the Grump of the Week. And this week, we're addressing the D&D Tag by our friend Ginny D, who the other day had this original idea of coming up with a series of questions and then reaching out to a random game master and asking each other the questions. And of course, the random game master she chose was fellow Hot Topic, Critical Role, YouTuber, I've got green hair, therefore I'm cool, Mark Sherlock Holmes of the Yogcast, though, really. And, yeah, okay. Now, the idea of question and answer between DMs, not new. I mean, RPG A Day has been doing it for 6 years. There's several other of these questionnaires rolling around and have been for years. I've done several. I mean, they date back to Dragon Magazine. Ask yourself what alignment you are. I mean, yeah. Okay. And if the goal is to reach out to other game masters and create a community where game masters talk each other, are she going to tag game masters like me? Well, probably not, because I'm a fucking asshole. But how about game masters like Blanco, or Unscripted and Unchanged, or Omasu, or Chris Martin, or Matt Broman? You know, other fellow YouTubers who DM and do this. Is she going to tag us? Or is she just going to tag fellow green-haired, cute, politically correct, post-critical role, Hot Topic DMs? I don't know. I hope so. I mean, I'd be fucking surprised, but it'd be wonderful if she reached out to me. But, you know, I'd like to see her to reach out to fellow game masters out there who are doing the same thing that she does and I do, who aren't as big as assholes as I am. Because let's face it, I'm an asshole. That's the persona I chose to play when I created this. So let's do the Ginny D D&D Tag. What was your first D&D character? The first character I ever made, or the first character I ever really played? Because I made a lot of characters. I think we all made a lot of characters and goofed around, but actual played in a continuous campaign. Okay, the first character I ever made was a fighter named Sam Wong. Yeah, really original, and probably considered racist now. Using the original 3 books, and I probably didn't do it right. I don't think any of us knew what we were doing back in the 70s. Really? Does any of us know what we're doing now? I sure as hell don't. Support me, Red Bull. I need a sponsor, and I will sell out. So, as far as I can recall, the first D&D character I ever put pen to paper was a first-level fighter named Sam Wong. But the first character I actually played, the one that I consider my first D&D character that I really loved and played for a long period of time, was the character I made in TJ Storm's. Hey, you could reach out to TJ Storm, Ginny D. TJ Storm's 15-year-long Company of the Bull campaign, Myron Nagadine. As far as there are other characters that existed before him, but in my heart, he is my first D&D character because he's the first one I ever really loved, and I really played for a long period of time. There were characters before that, like Ajax the Dwarf, and Saren the Cleric, and Solon the Green, my wizard, and Voldemarg, but, the first character I ever really played in a game that lasted more than 2 sessions, that I really invested in, that I really told a story, and that I consider my first character, was the character I made in TJ Storm's 2nd edition D&D game, Myron Negative. Which D&D class is your least favorite to play, or do you not want to play? I don't have one. Every class, in every iteration, has something worth exploring. Is there classes I prefer? Yes, I prefer quirky skill monkeys like rogues and bards because that's my play style. But I play a fighter, and I played the hell out of fighters. There's no class that I consider the least favorite to play. In fact, I am the first one, usually when I sit at a table, to volunteer to play the class that nobody else wants to play if the party needs it. Like if the party doesn't have a cleric, because nobody wants to play a cleric because they think clerics are just heal bots, I'll be the first to be like, oh no, you are so wrong, sir. Clerics are the most broken cleric character in the game, and let me show you why, and I'll play a cleric. So, there is no least favorite character for as far as I'm concerned. There's no worst class. There's no best class. There's definitely classes that make me go, why? Like the Warlock. I've talked about that in other vlogs. Like, why is the Warlock a class? It should really just not be. But whatever. And there's definitely changes to classes I don't agree with, like the Sorcerer. But you challenge me to play, I'll play. And, there's still classes I haven't played that I'd love to play and experiment and builds with in 5th or any game. So, yeah, there's no least favorite game character for me to play. You should experiment with every character. You should experiment with every iteration of the character because you never know what's going to work for you. What D&D spell would you most want to have in real life? Knowing me, or I think there's 2 answers to that. Obviously, flight. Everybody wants flight, right? Or really telekinesis, because there's nothing you can't do with telekinesis when it's powerful enough, because you could lift yourself with telekinesis, thus granting yourself flight. So, telekinesis. But considering my anger asshole levels, the one spell I probably shouldn't be trusted with is Fireball, because I'd be fireballing the fuck out of everybody. But yeah, telekinesis. If I only could have one superpower, one spell in real life, it would be telekinesis, because telekinesis would allow me to do so many other things. What is your favorite D&D monster? All of them. What is your favorite D&D monster? The Flump. The Flump is my favorite D&D monster because it's just so bloody ridiculous. It is a lawful good flying jellyfish. I believe it first appeared in the Fiend Folio, though I'm not absolutely 100% correct. It serves no purpose other than they needed a lawful good monster. It is a lawful good flying jellyfish. That is my favorite monster because it is just utterly ridiculous. But pretty much any of the loser monsters I love. If you can just make your player character just go, why? And have them, like when they encounter a flail snail or the Flump or one of the other ridiculous monsters that's like, why is this even in the book? Monsters, those are my favorites. Everybody loves the Mimic and the Rust Monster. But yeah, the Flump, the flail snail, just sort of the D-list supervillain monsters. Those are my favorites. What is your favorite NPC villain that you've ever encountered created? That's like 3 separate characters. There's like 4 separate questions there. So, what is the favorite NPC I've ever encountered as a player? Don't have one. There are definitely NPCs that stand out, but I think playing Middle-earth and meeting Gandalf as an NPC was probably one of the best experiences I ever had in that type of setting. Just like, oh my god, it's Gandalf. But I don't know if I have a favorite NPC that I've seen DMs. There's definitely favorite NPCs I have that have been presented in products, but that I've encountered. I don't know. I guess just none of them really ever stood out, which probably is the fault of the DMs, or they weren't around long enough. I'm sure there was some in like Christine Morgan's. I know in Christine Morgan's game that we played in college, there was a barkeep. And of course, there was the Pixie Tilwith. So yeah, in Christine Morgan's D&D/script fantasy game that I played in college, there was the NPC Pixie Tilwith. I think that was one of my favorites that I ever encountered. Favorite villain that I've ever encountered. The one that pissed me off the most, the one that, of all the NPC villains other DMs have created that I've encountered, it was in Tales of the Flame, the Pathfinder Adventure Path. Lady Janeth was probably my favorite villain because the way she was played out by the GM that was running that game at the time You never realized she was the villain until like a year in. And then when she pulled the rug out from under us, we were all so pissed and we were all so surprised. So just the way, and the clues were there. I mean, the very first time we meet her, first level on the introduction adventure, she's like, I will do anything to keep my people safe, including sacrificing you. And of course, we're like, oh, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And a year later, she actually does that. She turns out she is the villain. But we invested so much energy in this world, so much energy in the game, so much energy in this NPC, so much energy in just, helping her, that when she betrayed us, we were all like, so upset. So yeah, probably she's my favorite NPC villain that I've ever encountered. Favorite NPC that I've ever created. Well, Domo, the NPC from my Freeport game, definitely a favorite. But I think the favorite NPC I ever created, just because of his story, is Young Keg, who's 22 years old and still loves to dance. A completely random one-shot NPC that was supposed to just be one encounter for 5 minutes and then never seen again, like most NPCs. But the name came up from a random table of, generate random NPCs are using, and just the name, Young Keg, and his description was he's 22 but still loves to dance. So that was enough to make people go, okay, I kind of like this guy. And just the way it played out, that all the player characters ended up falling in love with him. They kidnapped him. He became the party's healer, even though he had no healing skills whatsoever. They kept giving him magic items for no reason whatsoever. It's like, I'm a 0-level NPC. Why are you giving me this? And he eventually saved the party life. So that's probably the favorite NPC I ever created. I will do his story in another vlog. We're already getting a little long on our teeth here on this one. Favorite villain that I ever created. I don't know if I have any really standout villains. Probably Kasuth. I mean, a lot of the villains that I played are just villains that were in the modules that I gave more life to or used. So, villains that have definitely, completely influenced directions of characters, and became favorites, or maybe Domo because he started as a villain and ended up becoming the party's mascot. Sea Lord Drake from the Freeport campaign. Definitely, just an NPC villain that just became so synonymous with the direction the game went that his legacy was felt for, the 3-4 years after just because of the continuation of how long that game lasted. Favorite villain that I've created. Kevna, who was Vecna, and nobody figured it out, despite the fact I, clued him in almost every time they encountered this guy that he was Vecna. He's like, he has one eye. His name is Kevna, which is basically Vecna, but I switched like 2 letters. And for like a year, they never figured out that Kevna was Vecna. Even when he made them go to get the eye that he lost, and the outrageous lie that they told him to get the eye and bring the eye to him. And then he's like, at last my hands are full, ancient spirits of evil. And they're all like, wait, this guy was Vecna? And I'm like, literally, I spelled the name for you every time. It's Vecna with 1 letter switched. He's a wizard missing an eye. How did you not figure this out? But yeah, so that might have been one of my favorite. But I didn't create him, so I don't know if it counts. Most of my favorite villains are villains that I just took and ran crazy with. So, has one of your characters ever died? Yes. All the time. And what killed them? Usually my own stupidity. I mean, face it, what kills your character? It's not the monster or the trap or the encounter. It's you. You killed your own character because of what you did or didn't do. I was stupid. I got my character killed. What is the most recent character death I had? The most recent character death I had was about a half a year ago. We're on this beach. There are these weird Stonehenge pillars. I go to check them out, and for some reason, this weird Lovecraftian encounter starts happening. And the DM, I mean, this is mostly just the DM being an asshole, I think, because he kept trying to make me stay and kept trying to enforce this Lovecraftian horror on me. And I'm like, I don't really feel scared. I'm just going to leave. He's like, oh, blah, 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 blah. I was like, I'm just going to walk away. I rolled my saving throw. I'm just going to walk away. I don't want to deal with this Lovecraftian crap. I'm just a goblin with a short sword. Let the wizard blow it up or whatever. But he was so set on killing my character or establishing the horror, but it just didn't work. And so my character kept losing points of charisma, and I'm like, what happens when I get to 0 charisma? It's like, oh, I guess, am I dead? Because I think I'm dead, or at least I'm a mindless, husk or whatever. But I mean, he's like, why aren't you scared? I'm like, because this isn't scary. It's just make a save or fail a save. And it's some weird creepy sort of pseudo-sexual sea snake that is vaguely Lovecraftian. But it's not a scary scenario. You're not making me scared. I don't really feel my character would be scared. I think my character just would like, fuck this, I'm out of here. But whatever. So that was probably my most recent character death. What is your best natural 20 story? I can't remember. I'm sure there's been plenty. Oh, I remember. Playing a barbarian in Carrie Solomon's weird Middle-earth game. I get stabbed through the chest, and I'm raging. I'm doing the whole barbarian thing, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do the Excalibur thing where I crawl up the spear and kill him. And he's like, there's no way you can do that unless you roll a natural 20. Natural 20. I crawl up the spear, and I cut the guy's head off. And I'm like, Thor, look at me. And he's like, well, yeah, unless you roll another natural 20, you're dead. Natural 20. So, yeah, that's probably my best natural 20 story. Best natural 1 story. Oh, there's so many. And it's always usually like, there's no way you can fail this unless you roll a 1 and I roll a 1, or it's like trying to do something really, really simple and I roll a 1 and the situation gets, just so outrageously out of control because just the 1 happens and then like somebody else rolls a 1 and then it guts. So yeah, I don't know if I have one. What is the highest level you've ever played a character to? Does playing a character up to 100 in the Bloodstone Pass scenario count? Otherwise, most recently, the highest level character I played was 11th. And 5th edition, I think, the highest character I've gotten to in 5th edition is 11th. The highest character I got in Pathfinder was, I think, 14th. The highest level character I got in 4th edition, I think, was 8th. Previous editions, I've gotten characters up to, 14th, 15th level. And then, if you count Bloodstone Pass, where we were running characters who got to 100. Yeah. What is your favorite magic item? Any magic item that does the job for me. Rug of Welcome. Magic Rope. Rod of Lordly Might. Gloves of Climbing. Boots of Striding and Springing, a decanter of endless water, a cube of air, If I could only have one magic item in the world and never have another magic item, I just want a ball of endless rope. Because as long as you have rope, you have everything else. Rope is the towel of D&D. Because without string, the world is chaos. But as long as you have rope, you can get everything else. If you had an IRL alignment, what would it be? Well, there's these, what is your alignment tests on the interweb. And I have taken several of them. And 99% of the time, they come up neutral evil. So what does that tell you about me? If you had to date one of your characters, which one would you pick? None of them, because they're not real. And sure, I've played cross-sex, I played same-sex, I played gay characters, I played straight characters, I played totally alien characters. Maybe when I was in my weird, awkward teenagers and I was like, oh, I'm secretly in love with my female character with her 22 double D boobs and whatever. But no, they're not real. They're characters. I can love them. I can invest a lot of energy into them. I can enjoy their successes. I can be upset at their failures. But at the end of the day, I'm just going to put them in the way and get on with my real life. I'm not going to fantasize and fetishize a D&D character because they're not real. Now, if you want to talk about TV characters, comic book characters, or movie characters I would want to date in real life, that's a completely different story. Is there a character you want to play but haven't had a chance to play yet? I've been doing this for 40 years, so if there's a character I haven't played yet, I don't know what it is. Are there classes in 5th edition I haven't played yet? Yes, I haven't played a Barbarian in 5th edition. I haven't played a Paladin in 5th edition. I haven't played a Sorcerer in 5th edition. And I haven't really had a chance to play a Cleric in 5th edition, other than a one-shot. So there's classes I want to play. If we're just talking about 5th edition, which I have a sad feeling Ginny D is. And I know Mark Holmes is only talking about 5th edition. So there's nothing I haven't played. That doesn't mean there aren't ideas I want to play. But if we're just going by classes, I've played every class in one iteration or another at least once. There are classes I prefer over others, but it doesn't mean I don't want to be challenged by playing a Barbarian. I don't want to be challenged by playing a Paladin. I don't want to be challenged by playing a Cleric. So I'll play them. In fact, I hope if the next time I play 5th edition, I'm hoping to play a Cleric. Just to prove my point that there's nothing a Cleric can't do. I need to play a Cleric in 5th edition at least once. Are you a dice goblin or a dice minimalist? I don't know what a dice goblin is, nor do I know what a dice minimalist is. I think what you mean to say, are you somebody who's a dice hoarder like Laura Bailey, who has, 10,000 dice and needs a separate dice for every character and, buys dice just because they're pretty? No, I am not. Are you a dice minimalist? Probably I'm a dice minimalist. I think I have 3 sets of dice right now. I regularly just lose dice, give dice away, throw dice away. I once had a fish tank. Then the bottom of the fish tank was just dice. So yeah, I'm not a dice hoarder. I understand it. I don't understand. It's why do you need 10,000 dice? You're never going to use them. But they're pretty. And, they're addictive. And so, yeah, okay, whatever. If it makes you happy to have 10,000 dice, you're supporting the hobby and you're supporting a game store, so good on you. I only need 3 or 4. I'm happy to buy a new set if it's something I really, really like, or if it's I need that dice, or if I lost a dice, but I will regularly give dice away. Ruler or mechanic have you never quite wrapped your brain around? The Emmons Teeny Hut and the Unarmed Combat rules in D&D. Because Pathfinder, say what you will about Pathfinder, the one thing they did right was fixed Unarmed Combat by making it a stat. It's a stat. No more this, than, but, you've got to roll, an athletics check, and, you need to make a save every round, which is still in D&D, because I've been in grappling encounters in 5th edition where it's make this save, and you have to make that save. It's no, just make Unarmed Combat a stat. D&D is not a martial arts game. It's not an unarmed combat game. It's just, monks exist, and they're one aspect of the game, and they're a fun aspect of the game, even though they never really have had their fit place because they're just, sort of a mess, which is a topic we could talk about in another vlog. But yeah, just the one thing Pathfinder 1st edition did great was just making unarmed combat a stat. I'm going to have to cut this because the idiots are out there with their stupid chainsaws cutting the trees at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. Why? But yeah, probably the unarmed combat rules. So that brings our questions to the end. So thank you, Ginny D, for doing this. It's not an original idea. Okay, whatever. It's great that you want to create a community of DMs. Let's see you follow through. Let's see somebody contact me with these questions. It's probably not going to happen because I'm an asshole. But let's see somebody contact Blengo or Unscripted and Unchained, or Omosu, or Chris Martin, or Kerry Solomon, or Seth Bradley, or some of the other guys out there who are doing the same thing I did with these questions and do the exchange. So there we go. We have the 15 questions. This is online on Ginny D's vlog. It's also been done 100 times in RPG a Day, Dragon Magazine, several other questions. You can find the What Alignment Am I question thing on hundreds of different sites on the interweb. So yeah, I'm neutral evil. What does that say about me? Thank you for taking part of this experiment. I hope you appreciate it. If you do, please consider subscribing to my vlog. Hey, subscribe to my vlog, Ginny D, and I'll subscribe to yours. Help me hit 300 subs by March and 500 subs by August 4th. And I will talk to you later. Support me.